Welcome to episode 261 of Build Your House Yourself University by BYHYU. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson, and together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can have more enjoyable home building journeys and build quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. Matt S. went back to the neighborhood he grew up in and build a home perfect for entertaining. In the first part of this interview, he talks about his very practical floor plan that has lots of space for hosting friends and family. He tells us about some really unique design ideas and gives us great advice about communicating with contractors. It's so nice to learn from the experience of others, so let's get right into it. Here's Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in central Indiana, a town called Martinsville, just outside of the suburbs of the Indianapolis Loop. And my wife, Emmy Lou, and I have been married about 10 years and have two kids currently, Emmett and Joelle. And we just have an absolute blast with our kids and our friends group. We live in a neighborhood in which all of our friends are close by and ride golf carts over. And we really, really enjoy our home and entertaining from our home.
That sounds so fun, Matt. How old are your kids?
Emmett's 4 and Joelle is going to be 3 next month.
Wow, you're busy. You're busy. But that sounds like so much fun. So did you guys arrange that you would all live kind of close by, or did it just happen that way and you became friends, or how did that come about? Yeah,
so that became an important part of our building process. The community that we live in, Foxcliff, was primarily developed in the early 90s, maybe early 2000s. And what happened is most of our friends from this town, their parents lived in this community. And so they all kind of grew up here. And whatever happenstance it is, we all kind of just migrated back, and it still was just a really great place to raise kids. There's a couple of pools in the neighborhood. There's a golf course. There's a playground. And so we all just kind of migrated back near where the parents lived. So there was that generation before, and now we're coming in. We call ourselves the second generation, if you will. And so we just kind of all ended up back in the same neighborhood, went to high school with all of this. We have at least 7 couples, but now it's, I guess, expanded to 9 or 10 couples the same age with children of similar age.
Wow.
And we're all just a big old group. I always tell our kids they live the American dream, because it's not a bit of challenge at all for us to end up with 20 adults and 10, 15 kids running around on a Friday night ordering pizza and that type of thing.
That sounds so fun, Matt. Oh, what a blessed life you have. So let's talk about the house a little bit. When did you start and finish your build?
Indeed. So we technically broke ground Halloween of last year, 2021, and we finished November 16th of this year, so just slightly less than a month ago. So technically our build was right at 12 and a half months. I would say that we knew that when we started that our foundation guy was a little bit delayed. So they dug the hole. We knew he really wasn't going to start until December with the footers and pouring the basement walls. So we consider ourselves, we made it in under a year by all technicalities.
That's really good these days. That's excellent, especially for the kind of complexity of the house that you have and the size of the house. That is really a good schedule during and post-pandemic. So that's really good. Speaking of your house, let's talk about the design. I've seen pictures of it, Matt. It's so beautiful. Let's talk about the design and style of your house. And if you included any special features like energy efficient features or anything that's special.
Absolutely. So yeah, design and kind of the layout and the floor plan was something that was really important to me when I put my nerdiness to work. I hope that you're able to get the floor plan on the website for people to point to so some of this will make a lot more sense when you see it on a floor plan.
We'll definitely post that so people can refer to it.
Absolutely. So our biggest concept and what came about We actually bought a house, an existing house in the neighborhood in 2019. And we thought it was our forever home and thought it was perfect. And it had a wonderful entertaining and basement area. It's just common home building trend to build a wonderful basement in the Midwest. Every Midwest millennial man's dream is to have this entertaining basement. We had the bar down there, the theater room. There was possibly a place to put a golf simulator in that home. And unfortunately, it wasn't a walkout basement. And as we lived there, we quickly realized that basements were just really difficult for us. One, they're loud. We have the young kids, of course. I would go down there. We'd try to have maybe a poker night or a game night where, the IU is playing or somebody's playing Colts night on a Monday Night Football type of game. Try to have my friends over. Hey, let's watch the game. And my wife's like, yeah, no, it's you guys are way too loud. Even if I was just down there watching a movie and had the surround sound on, she's like, that's just too loud. And so that became issue number one. And I was like, okay, if I tried to put a golf simulator in here and I'm swinging a driver or an iron or something, and that stuff's loud. So noise was a major issue. I think the other thing was separation. I like to cook. I like to do a dinner party, and I'd be in the kitchen upstairs and all my friends would be down in the basement. So we were very separated from one another in that setup. And then finally, because it wasn't a walkout, but also just because we utilize the driveway when we're together a lot, we see our friends in the summer, they'll all ride their golf carts over and they want to be outside. The kids are running around. They got their little scooters and their, RC cars and stuff, and they want to be out on the driveway. So for 6 months of the year, nobody wants to even think about walking in and going down into that cave of a basement. And so we rethought the whole setup of the house and how do you entertain. And we're like, the basement's not necessarily for us. We need something that has some type of indoor-outdoor feel so the kids can be out. We need something very close to the kitchen, as close as we possibly can. We need something where we can be loud. When the kids go to bed, we have a simulator running. So we wanted something that wasn't connected directly to any of the kids' bedrooms or in the main area of the house. And so what we did is we put an entertaining room. A lot of floor plans you see online would call it a game room. I called it a man cave at first until my wife corrected me and said, no, we're not calling it the man cave. The wives will be out there too. So we're going to call it the lounge. So we essentially took our 3-car garage and we just extended the garage another 32 feet. So it's a room that's 24 by 32. And it was a concrete poured floor. So we kind of save a little bit of money thinking, it's just an extension of the garage. It's not connected directly to the house at all, except for being connected to the garage. We also wanted to make sure it was still close enough to the main kitchen, main living room that it was accessible. So I, kind of set up my floor plan to have a corner where it was kind of connected to the kitchen area as closely as possible. So again, hopefully the floor plan makes a little bit of sense on that. It has a door out to the driveway, and then we built a nice flat patio area out back and covered patio as well, and put a clear glass garage door that we can open up in the summertime, let the kids ride in and out. We hope in the future to have a pool back there. And, when the pool becomes an option, it'll really be a nice summer entertaining area, have an indoor-outdoor feel, and be usable, as well as, it is fully HVAC'd and heated and, all sealed up. And so we can be out here all winter as well, and get to use it. It has by far exceeded our expectations so far. I'm very excited because the kids go to bed around 8. I come out, hit golf balls, have game night. We're out here till 11:30, and my wife didn't even know we were here. Wow. She was sleeping. The kids were sleeping. And so from that perspective, it's worked out perfectly. And so that was a primary, feature of our design, was having that entertaining area, same level, indoor, outdoor feel, but still accessible to the kitchen, kind of rethinking what a basement is for us. Again, that's worked out really well. I kind of wanted to share that idea with other folks because we love it.
Yeah, it's so unique and so practical at the same time. Like lots of people say they're designing their house for entertaining, but you've taken it to another level, Matt. And I really encourage everyone to go to the website to take a look at the floor plan just so that they can kind of make a little bit more sense of it. But it is such a great idea. Was that something that you came up with, or you talking with the designer or architect came up with? I guess that brings me to the next question is, did you purchase your house plan online or did you have one drawn up?
The idea for that entertaining actually came from a Facebook group I was in related to Blackstone griddles. There was a guy that just posted his man cave, and it was kind of a almost similar. I think his was an actual separate building from his house. But it really got my wheels turning about, hey, what can I do to be on the same level, not down in the basement? And I saw his kind of room and it started to spark the idea. I was like, what if I did it this way? So I started on I think it's Architectural Digest, like where they have all the floor plans. I kind of started there to get samples. And then one of the important things when it came to picking a drawer in town for us is there were two really prominent, architects or floor plan designers, and one of them did pencil drawings and one of them does CAD. And the guy that does pencil drawings does a wonderful job. I have no issue with that, but I knew my personality type. I wanted the guy that could use CAD so he could change things and we could play with it and fine tune it. So I handed him some initial ideas of what I wanted it to look like. And then we just went to work fine tooth combing through every step of the process. I know one of the topics is cost cutting. Yeah. So part of our thing was, okay, what can we do to make the floor plan simple? I think when it comes to cost cutting, one common misperception is that square footage is the only thing that matters. Cut your square footage, you cut your cost. I would push back and say, I think simplicity of your floor plan makes a big difference. The number of corners that you have in your foundation is huge. So cut out, some of the cutouts. So when we started it, it had juts and jabs all over. And what we, narrowed it down to is essentially two rectangles put together. We do have a little bump out on our front door, but if you look at the foundation and exterior walls of at least the main level of our house, there are 10 total corners on the house.
Wow, Matt, that's so good.
Yeah, I mean, and it would be just 6 if not for that bump out on the front of the house. But with that being said, that can cut down on your brick labor, your brick cost. It can cut down on your lumber costs. Every time you do an exterior wall differently, it's just more labor, more work, more time. And so that was one thing to kind of share. So we did not purchase the floor plans, online, and we did the CAD plans, really fine tooth combed through, that type of stuff as best as we can.
I can't wait for people to see the house plan because it's so practical and unique at the same time. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Yeah. So tell us how the pandemic affected your build, Matt. Did you have delayed materials, shortages of labor? It doesn't seem like it took you longer to build, but did you have any issues that were related to the pandemic?
I spent a lot of time talking about this. And by the way, I used a general contractor, Quinn Whitney, out of Martinsville. Loved our overall experience. Him and I asked him this today. There was that little bit of issue at the beginning. We knew our foundation crew was a bit busier at the beginning. There was at the end the two major concrete suppliers in the state of Indiana both went down at the same time and couldn't get a part. So our concrete pour got pushed back to about a week and a half, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before we actually closed. So our concrete pour was a little pushed back. We were very nervous about that at the time, and they couldn't get the part that they needed to fix the plants. With that being said, I think we did a good job of ordering stuff early. Yeah. We ordered our appliances in February, had them in August. We knew some of these things were coming, so we were able to avoid those big issues. I think the other thing, of course, is the price increases that went along and how the timing affected us on that. So we started our whole design process in October of 2020. We were ready to go, hopeful for going in spring of 2020. So all of our quotes, or no, spring of 2021, excuse me, all of our quotes and allowance sheet and all of that was submitted to the bank, and contract was kind of ready to go in April of 2021. So that's when all of the prices for our loan lock in. And then one of the things that occurred is we went to get an appraisal on the build. And because our community was developed in the 90s, early 2000s, it doesn't have a lot of new homes that have sold recently. And our appraisal came up short. That was a warning sign that we had. And so we had to come up with the cash to make up the appraisal gap. For us, it's our forever home, and we would never consider another neighborhood. So we went ahead with that. But as a result, we had to sell the home we were in previously. We can complain about price increases, but on the other hand, it did turn out fortunately for us that we sold in August of 2021, and we moved into a condo in the community. So getting it sold, that part of it was I think a piece of the puzzle. I think if they did the appraisal today with today's pricing, some more comps in the immediate area that reflect what it actually costs to build a home, I think that would have been a different scenario on the appraisal side of things. In the end, it all worked out. And again, in terms of price increases, I think we did overall pretty well. Most of the changes in cost were choices that we made personally, but at the same time, every subcontractor had an increase from the time that they quoted the job to the time they finished the job. It was just every single one. I remember when Quinn told me, he said, your HVAC was $3,400 over. I remember fist pumping like, woo, and I'm like so excited because I had it down on my budget sheet that it was going to be 7,000 or 8,000 over just on a guess. And then I stepped back and I said, Quinn, I bet you've never had anybody fist pump for only being over 3,400. And he was like, yeah, that's a rare experience. So that became, that was part of it for us. But delays didn't hit us very hard. I mean, there were minor things overall, but not anything huge. So we were lucky there.
Yeah. And it sounds like you didn't change much of your design or any design elements or selections because of supply chain issues. Is that correct? Because it seemed like you ordered well in advance.
Yeah, indeed. We didn't really change anything as a result of supply chain. No.
Okay. Well, that's great. So give us some advice, Matt. What advice do you have for us regarding dealing with and or communicating with contractors, whether that's a GC or subcontractors? What advice do you have for us as far as communication goes?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking this question. This became kind of an important reflection for me in looking back at how our build went and the process for that. So we're in a situation with our builder, Quinn Whitney. He shares the office above my office. And so we share a building, and I see him super frequently. And throughout the entire build process, I was seeing him basically every day. With that also being said, we live in the same neighborhood. During the build, we were in a condo, and we were here pretty frequently, 2, if not 3 times a day. I'd often come by on my lunch break. So we had regular and frequent conversation with our builder that was important to us throughout the entire process. It was very helpful from the perspective of always being able to run ideas. We never hesitated to tell him if a mistake was made, or if we saw something, we'd be on the site. We'd be able to talk to the contractors as well. With that being said, we also were involved early in the pricing. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a financial advisor. When it came to his allowance sheet, I was able to really jump in there and get a lot of quotes on things, specialty items which we can talk a little bit about some other things in the house I enjoy. But when it came to getting prices for those, I get on the phone and find out, what's it cost for this garage door? What's it cost for this gas strut pass-through window that we did? We did 2 of those. And so I was very, very involved in communication with them regularly and frequently. As I evaluate the frustrations that I ended up having towards the end, and I think it's natural when you get to the end of a home build to be frustrated with mistakes, or just they missed this, or the amount of time that you're spending on the phone. Evaluated how all that worked. I think one of the things that I had was too much communication with Quinn. I would stop him, at the staircase coming into the building, and hey, Quinn, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Let's try this. Let's try that. Especially during the year that we were, from the time that we started the process to the time we actually broke ground, I was bouncing ideas off of him. And so what we got into was this habit of being very informal in our communication and very kind of shooting the breeze type communication with one another. And I think in retrospect, that's on me. It's part of my responsibility. Is it became so informal that I don't think sometimes he knew what I actually wanted. Like there in each conversation, there was some stuff that was a maybe, and there was some stuff that was like, oh no, we got to actually do this. Like, this is important. Like, we're doing this. And so, I look back, it's like, have a clipboard, take notes, follow along so we don't drop anything along the way. And then I realized, if Quinn had a clipboard to write down everything I told him, his clipboard would be like 5,000 pages long. So that brings me to my advice. My advice to folks in that situation where you have frequent communication is to have a formal, regular time to meet on site to discuss things if you can, if that's a possibility for you. And make sure that you delineate at the beginning of a conversation, this is a formal, this is what we're doing. Let's get notes and let's get this done at a certain time. And I think at certain times during the build, it would be appropriate to do that weekly, so things didn't get missed before a subcontractor left the job. I think at certain times of the build, it may not be appropriate, and you may not need weekly. Early in the job or during framing, for example, you may not need weekly, formal meeting. But I think if I go back and do it again, just making sure establishing a formal time to discuss all of the serious, this is what's going to happen time is very important. I think also, because I got so involved in pricing, I had too much communication directly with subcontractors, and I was out here a lot, and there was a lot of go between, and then the responsibility would fall on me. If I told subcontractor to do something and it didn't get done, then I go to Quinn and I say, okay, look, I asked for this, it didn't get done. It's kind of like, well, he didn't know about that, and so how can he be held responsible for a conversation that happened between me and the contractor or the subcontractor? And it's kind of like, I needed to remember that my point of contact should have been Quinn directly, so that there was documentation. And then ultimately, if I asked for something that wasn't done and it had to be changed later, then the pricing, hey, that would be between Quinn and the contractor, not between me and the contractor and Quinn. So it's definitely encourage you to make a note of everything. Your general contractor is in charge. You talk to them as much as you possibly can. I will tell all subcontractors who happen to maybe listening, any generals, I think this was such an important piece of advice that I got early in my own personal career, is that when a customer or client calls you frustrated, the best response you could possibly have is, I'm sorry, I know you're frustrated, and what can I do to make it better?
Oh, that's so good.
The best part about that, if you're a subcontractor, if you work for others, and you say, I know you're frustrated, what can I do to make it better? If it's not actually your fault and you're not actually responsible, the person that you say that to will stop, think about it for a second, and they'll go, you know what? It's not actually your fault. You're right. It wasn't your problem. And so I've shared that advice because there were so many people I talked to along the way that it's like, you could handle that a little bit better. But anyway, to summarize, I'd certainly say that the best advice I can have for individuals building a home, communicating with contractors, is make sure you delineate the formal from the informal in conversations. Schedule that formal time to meet on site, and try your best to direct your questions and concerns through the general contractor. Make sure they're present taking notes when you're discussing things with subcontractors. So
That's so good, Matt. I love that. And I think maybe if they don't write things down, we may take it upon ourselves just to make a quick little bullet list of things that we discussed, to email it or text it to the builder just so they remember what we talked about. Because often our project is not the only project they're dealing with. Those things are top of mind for us because, this is an important project for us. Often it's our forever home, and we are thinking about the details, whereas they may have several projects that they're working on. And sometimes they can't keep everything just top of mind about our project. So sometimes we need to help them out by jotting some things down, putting it in an email or a text. And that's just a good paper trail as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. As with anything that comes with any type of professionalism, documentation, the best you can. And, there were some other things that I was just a novice, and this is the first home we've ever built. And, so when it came to things, there were just certain assumptions I would make along the way that I thought, hey, for example, in one room, we were supposed to have a plug for a dishwasher. And I didn't notice a plug in that area after the electrical walkthrough, but I just kind of assumed it's like, they just probably run it later, or, it's probably, they just pulled off of here. And there's things I didn't know along the way. And so I didn't stop and say, hey, wait, where's the outlet there? I didn't know I was supposed to, but I kind of thought everybody knew we were doing a dishwasher there. And so assume nothing when it comes to the details. Go ahead and bring it up as early as you can if you think you notice something that isn't picked up on. So anyway.
That's good, Matt. So the next question I have for you, Matt, is how often, and I think you may have just talked about this a little bit, how often did you visit the job site, and what did you do when you found a mistake? I think you sort of alluded to this.
Yeah, indeed. So I visit the job site about 3 times a day almost. So way too frequently. I would go on my way to work, see who was there, if they had any questions, and then I'd stop by at lunch often, and then we'd come by after work. And then I would often text Quinn, or I would see him the next day if I found some type of mistake. And again, in hindsight, I think collecting those and having a formal time to discuss all of those instead of being so frequent and informal with it would have been beneficial.
Was there any trouble with subcontractors not showing up as scheduled or not completing their work? And if so, how were those issues handled?
I think that's one thing. I think I did a pretty good job of delegating that to Quinn. It was, hey, the schedule was pretty on track. I think that's one of those underrated behind the scenes things that the general contractors, that's what they do. And as I looked at the percentage of days worked, I thought it was pretty excellent. So if we were at 365 days, I would bet over 90% of those days were somebody was on site doing something. I was pretty pleased overall with the percentage of days worked. We did have a little bit of issue at the end with plumbing. There was just some things that weren't double checked. There was a hole in one faucet that was leaking, and we got kind of frustrated. It was actually a recommendation I had made, a referral I had made, and that was probably one of my weak spots during the process. I called the plumber directly and asked, hey, you just let us know at what point we need to get another contractor in here to finish this, because we closed Wednesday and this was the Friday before. And we need this wrapped up, and that seemed to do it. Got those taken care of. Again, that was probably too much direct communication between a sub and myself. Overall, Quinn kept the schedule on track.
It's hard not to get involved, isn't it, Matt? When it's like, it's your baby. It's your baby. It's so hard to relinquish control just to the builder, but I have to talk to myself to do that sometimes too. But Did you do any online shopping for materials or fixtures? And if so, what were some of your favorite online resources?
One of our favorites are LVP. We did throughout the main level of the basement and yeah, most of our house. And the LVP we used was from a company called Floret. We did Floret.com. We did their Lato signature, and it has a 40 mil wear layer, which was phenomenal. Our flooring guy was very impressed with it. At $4.50 a square foot, I thought it was very competitive, required no underlayer.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and, we love it. Waterproof, durable, have had no issues, especially we were worried about installing it in the summer. So Floret comes highly recommended in terms of only online type of shop. We also did OptView for two gas strut pass-through windows that they open up to our patio with countertops that go underneath. OptView out of California, they were excellent throughout the process. Quite good customer service. You'd call and a person would answer. I thought that was impressive.
Tell me about that product. I know you said LVP, so that's luxury vinyl plank. But tell me about the OptView. Is it a window? What is that?
So, and another important part of our process was that indoor-outdoor feel. And
Mm-hmm.
so we put two windows above our sink, a sink in our main kitchen sink, and above our sink in the lounge entertaining area, we put a 6 foot by 5 foot window that's on gas struts, and it opens out to the covered patio, and there's the
Oh,
countertop continues underneath the window. So it's those pass-through windows.
yes.
We called it. And the idea there is that in the summertime, if we do eventually have a pool, the kids could come up in their wet swimming trunks, grab their hot dogs and mac and cheese, and eat there without having to come inside. And it also gives us that open feel and makes it more connected if we happen to be in the kitchen and I'm out grilling. I can grill outside. Hey, babe, could you pass me the salt and pepper or whatnot?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Without having to come all the way in. So that was an important part of how we set up the corner between the lounge and the kitchen. And so, yeah, we definitely enjoyed those gas strut pass-through windows from OptView. We used Amazon a lot for light fixtures. We used All Modern for light fixtures. And we also used Amazon during Prime Day for our kitchen sink. Now, anytime you order something online, and if you're doing the ordering yourself, open the box the day it arrives and
Yeah.
ensure it's not damaged, even if it doesn't look damaged. Because
Mm-hmm.
one thing we ran into is we did a 45-inch workstation sink from Kraus. We love that sink. It's an awesome idea. We have two kitchen faucets. It's one of my favorite features of the house. But the day the countertop people were there to install it, they opened it up. It was damaged. I had no idea, and they were going to be done that day. They had to come back because we had to reorder that sink. It wasn't in stock anywhere. So if we were using online resources, open the boxes, make sure it's not broken before it comes.
Good advice.
Yeah, so for tile, we did use Floor and Decor, and our tile guy was very hesitant at first. Floor and Decor apparently has a reputation for buying second run tile, some inconsistent sizes and inconsistent thicknesses and things.
Hmm.
We did actually end up having a very positive experience with that. We came in on an average at less than $4 per square foot for each of our tile selections. So that worked out very well in terms of the cost savings, which is another topic. But our experience was positive. There was only one tile that was off just a little bit in thickness, and they made it work. So I do think Floor and Decor did very well for us as well. And I think also furniture, Castlery, we had a very positive experience with Castlery furniture, like the design and that as well.
What is it called?
Castlery. So the
Castlery.
word castle.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Yes.
We recommend them in a big way.
Floor and Decor, like we don't have one in our area, but I was recently in Miami and I went into one and it is huge and they have such beautiful stuff. They have really beautiful stuff. I hadn't heard that complaint about them, but their flooring and tile, it just looks so beautiful and it looks quite high quality, I thought. I have not used them, but I'm glad that you had a great experience with them. Thank you for joining me. I hope Matt's story is encouraging to you. A big thank you to him for being so open and sharing his out-of-the-box thinking and great ideas. Since I'm working so many hours and only able to publish new episodes sporadically, make sure you follow the podcast so when I do drop new episodes, they will immediately go into your podcast library. Thanks for stopping by. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.